What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today I'm back with another reaction video. I requested, I stated in one of my videos titled, Why Renaissance Periodization is the most anabolic YouTube channel on YouTube. Definitely have to, if you haven't seen that video, you should definitely watch it for the curveball that I threw at the end of that video. But what I did is I asked my audience, because you guys spend a lot more time watching YouTube than I do. I often struggle to find anything exciting to react to. And so various people came up with ideas in the comments section, and Romulus 1939, who I see pretty frequently in the comments, said, do a video shitting on Jeff Nippard. Until Romulus made this suggestion, and thank you for the suggestion, I had never, to my memory, I had never watched a Jeff Nippard video. I had heard the name, and I had heard the name, I think generally when I hear this guy's name, he is getting hated on. So I fully went into, I fully went into his content expecting that I was going to be able to make a trend rant just ripping this guy to shreds. And so, but unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that's not the experience I've had. I've been pretty shocked. So I'm gonna link these videos, but I'm just gonna tell you right now, these are the videos that I watched of his in preparation for making this video. The first video I watched was Pro Bodybuilders versus Science Nerd. Which I have to admit, he was winning me over right out the gate. I fully expected me to hate this guy's face when he started out in the video, and I think Romulus mentioned this. He just didn't like the guy's accent. He's kind of a soft voice kind of guy, not super aggressive, and that certainly can get under like guys like me and other like real A-type alpha types, you know, that can be nauseating. But he admits he's a science nerd. So like, you know, you got to give it to him. He's not claiming to be the trend god, you know, so you got to give him some room there. You know, he titled his video, Pro Bodybuilders versus Science Nerd. Then I watched the best and worst chest exercises ranked by science. Junk volume, why you must avoid it for max muscle. And then I just got through watching a really fucking good video, guys, titled The World's Smartest Muscle Building Technique. And I don't know if he did it intentionally, but he snuck in a fucking joke on in this video, I think, or at least it made me laugh, that I'll share with you in a minute. So I'm going to kind of walk you through some of this, kind of give you a Cliff's Notes version to some of this content, and then I'm going to link it in the description below. I don't really like to talk over other people's videos because then that robs them of a view. So if this video gets 1,000 views, I would rather send you guys to this guy's channel. I mean, he doesn't need the views. He's got over 1 million subs. But hey, like it all adds up in the end. And he's making content, and I think he should get rewarded for making it. I hope that, you know, more people will view my content. Maybe one of these big names will eventually make a video about me and help my content reach a greater audience. So one of the things that I really honestly liked when I first started watching the Pro Bodybuilder versus Science Nerd, and again, like I said, I was fully prepared to hate on this guy. So please understand, I approached this guy's content with a negative, I already had negativity in my mind because I thought I was going to hate him. And so, you know, he's relatively short, I think, comparable to these other bodybuilders, and he's at the, forget the name of the gym, it's in Canada, where all the big names, Valerie, Antoine, bunch of fucking, big names in the Canadian bodybuilding world lift at this gym. I think it's called Pure Muscle and Fitness is what it is. So he approaches these people, and he does a good job of saying, hey, I can see that basically you're a monster. You're a fucking professional bodybuilder. Would you be listening? Would you be willing to listen to my scientific take about whatever it is that you're doing? And of course, the people are all super fucking gracious. And so he starts off with this one guy who's doing lateral raises with the cable machine. And of course, like me, and I think most of us, he's got the cable all the way at the bottom, and he's doing lateral raises with a grip. And right out the gate, Nippard says, hey, you know, look, that works, that you could certainly do that. Can I show you an alternative? And he lifts the pulley up to where it is basically even with this guy, I forget who the bodybuilder is that he's talking to, even with his hand, and shows him if you put the pulley even, like parallel to your hand, that you reach a 90-degree angle like from the gate, and that you will put tension on the muscle in a more advantageous way from the start of the lift to the end of the lift. I have yet to try this. I'm definitely going to try it. But he was real gracious in saying, hey, this is just something that you could do to possibly get a little bit more gains out of your lift. And then he went around and he talked to a guy who was benching, and he talked to Valerie, who is one of my favorite female bodybuilders, Valerie Rattel. She has a YouTube channel. She's got a phenomenal physique. She's one of the girls that I was going to do a female spotlight on. She's featured in this video, so you can get a feel for kind of what her physique looks like and her personality. And the thing that I was expecting him to do, which would have been really annoying and I would have hated on him, is if he had gone around to all these bodybuilders and nitpicked the shit out of the way they were doing their lifts. I think the second guy in the video he goes over to, again, I don't know who this guy is, but he was bench pressing, I think, 550. And dude was bench pressing it like he was bringing it rapidly down to his chest. So he had kind of a rapid negative and then just an explosive press. He was perfectly controlled. And I forget, Nippard offered like some minor little critique. But even in his critique, he admitted, honestly, you might not want to employ this because you're already successfully lifting a shit ton of weight. And what I'm suggesting that you add might kind of get into your head and throw you off of your game. So while technically you could make this small change, it probably wouldn't be that advantageous for you. Which I really respected, because a lot of these science nerds who want to promote their scientific methodology of training completely ignore the mental state that a person is in, and if they're not doing anything wrong, which he admitted, you know, this guy was doing, there was nothing wrong with his form, and he was lifting a giant amount of weight. And so throwing in some little nitpick might end up just creating a mental block and prevent the guy from being able to lift as heavily as he usually does. And Nippard was big enough to admit that. Then he goes on, I think Valerie was next, and she was on a row machine, and he says, hey, can I, again, you know, can I, you know, look at your whatever, how you use this machine and give you my scientific advice. And she said, sure. And so she starts out and she's doing, I think she was doing one hand, two hand, I don't know. But she was reaching, you know, she was getting full extension when she was reaching for the handles. And then she was real slow, controlled, pulling back to a squeeze. And then full extension. And then back to a squeeze and hold. And in the video, Nippard goes, is that how you always do this lift? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, well, fuck. I mean, you're doing it perfectly. There's basically nothing that I can say here there's not really any advice I can offer you. You're already doing this lift perfectly, which again is something that you often don't see, in my estimation or my experience, with like an Athletes X kind of guy, where he needs to be the smartest person in the room, and he needs to find some bullshit excuse to critique the person who's already proven that they know a couple of things about what they're doing because they have these phenomenal bodies, or in the case of the power lifter, incredible strength on the bench press. And so at the end of that video, I had really nothing but respect for the guy, because he didn't do any of the typical fucking science nerd annoying things, and he respected them, and he critiqued them where he felt like he had something of value to offer, and then just left them alone and admitted like, hey, you're already doing this perfectly. Then I looked at the best and worst chest exercises, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he nailed it. Like, I 100% agree with his estimation of the value of each of those exercises. The ones that he felt were totally useless, I just intuitively stay away from. The ones that he felt were the most useful, I intuitively gravitate to. So again, maybe this is just one of those scenarios where it's kind of hard to find fault with somebody who seems to already agree with everything that you were doing naturally. I thought he had a really good explanation for why certain exercises were good and bad. And so again, that was another really great video. I'm going to skip junk volume because this is the only thing that I have to critique, so I'll save my critique for the end. My favorite video that I saw of his, that I just got through watching, that I think every single, if you watch any one of this guy's videos, go watch the world's smartest muscle building technique. I had to stop the video in the middle of it and go get my wife so she could watch it with me. I think this video is fucking amazing. I have never heard of what he's referring to, which is long length partials versus short length partials. So just for the purposes of my audience's understanding, he's basically comparing and contrasting. He's talking about what is the best scientifically proven muscle building technique. And he's comparing full range of motion to short length partials and long length partials. So I'm going to show you an example of what he's saying, where a short length partial, where it would be where you have a bicep curl and you're basically starting from here where your muscle is already contracted and then you're curling to the top. And this is what would be called a short length partial. A long length partial is where you're starting at the bottom at 0 degrees and you're coming up effectively halfway. This is a long length partial, and he explains that the key is that you want to get this initial stretch and then a contraction, and that when you're comparing basically a half rep, you could call it, to a full range of motion rep, that the science shows that the half rep actually outperforms the full range of motion rep. And when he makes that statement in this video, he cuts to a clip where he and another like science nerd are talking, and Dr. Mike Israetel is standing in the background. Mr. fucking range of motion police, Mr. full range of motion is what is the best thing for fucking muscle growth. Jeff Nippard basically shit on Dr. Mike Israetel in this video, describing, and he lists, I mean, please watch the video. He does a better, I'm not going to try to rip the guy off completely, but he explains with science and all of these things that if you had to choose one of the two, the best thing to do, and he even talks about like on bench press. He backs up the Jay Cutler style of bench pressing, where basically you're stretching all the way to the bottom and you're doing these little short half reps. You're never getting anywhere close to lockout. That's what I've been doing for some period of time now, and my chest has been really, really responding to that. So in my personal experience, I have tried this. You guys in the comments who were watching me do bicep curls with 60 and 70 pound dumbbells, claiming that I was not getting a full range of motion, that I wasn't really lifting those dumbbells, because again, I was coming, you know, up somewhere to here. I was not getting the 70 all the way up to here. And according to the science nerd Jeff Nippard, I'm better off doing 60 and 70 pound dumbbell curls with what he calls long length partials. Those partial reps that I've been doing scientifically lead to more muscle growth than using less weight and a full range of motion. So again, really hard to hate on somebody when he just gave me scientific proof to say fuck you to all of you people who are shitting on me and Jay Cutler and all of these professional bodybuilders who use these short range of motion lifts. Some people call them cheat lifts or whatever, half lifts. All of these things are actually backed up by science as being better than the full range of motion lifts. So again, I still believe in employing a variety of things. That's why I lift pyramid. So when I start out with 30-pound dumbbells, I'm actually using a lower weight for 35s or wherever I start. I'm using a lower weight for a full range of motion. But as I pyramid up in weight and down in reps, I'm not afraid to do a long length partial with a lot of weight because in my experience, I have grown better that way. And now we have it backed up by 5 different research studies that show that when you use long length partials compared to full range of motion, that you will get 5 to 10% more growth out of the long length partial, which of course is another caveat that backs up the other thing that I'm routinely saying on this channel, which is that really getting into the minutia of all of this is a waste of time. While Jeff Nippard's science backs up my intuitive training regimen, which feels good, we're still only talking about a 5 to 10% difference, which is why I'm always telling you guys the key to building a phenomenal physique is eating in a surplus, using the right androgens, training 4+ days a week, pick up heavy shit and put it down. Whether that's for a full range of motion, a half range of motion, cheat reps, it doesn't really matter. The body does not really care that much. As long as you're lifting and you're stimulating and you're damaging muscle fibers, then you're going to see gains in the gym. And so he really does a good job of backing up everything that I'm already doing naturally. You don't have to worry about range of motion. Partial / cheat reps actually build more muscle than the opposite, but it's employing all different things that's really going to get you the maximum gains. And so from the content that I've watched, I've only been able to find one single thing to nitpick this guy on. My one critique comes from his video titled Junk Volume, Why You Must Avoid It for Max Muscle Growth. One of the things that I think a lot of the science nerds or people who don't cater to enhanced athletes, which I hope to God this guy's not claiming natty. He's very clearly not natty in my estimation. One of the things that a lot of these channels that are different than mine, my channel is basically catered directly to people who are performance enhanced. And he talks about how going over 10 working sets for a muscle group gets into the junk volume territory, that your body can't really heal from that. I was shocked by how few working sets he was recommending in this video. I think this video must clearly be made for natties, and in that case I would probably tend to agree that 10 working sets is probably all that you're going to be able to recover from. But when you're dealing with enhanced athletes, people like me who are using 1.5 grams of gear a week, we're training very consistently, we're using GH, we're using compounds that build, like DECA, that put collagen into the joints. My body can recover from substantially more than 10 working sets. I actually usually shoot for double that. So I usually try to get 20 working sets per body part when I'm in the gym. I do not always succeed in doing that, but that's usually the goal that I have. And so my biggest and only complaint is just that some of this content just, in my opinion, does not apply to enhanced athletes. We are able to train substantially longer, substantially more frequently, and it's at a substantially higher volume with more weight than our natty counterparts. Because we have the added strength and the supraphysiological ability to repair and recover from the damage that we're doing to our bodies. Honestly, I think if you're doing 10 working sets and you're taking gear, you're fucking wasting your gear. I just personally believe that you can definitively recover from substantially more than that. So for those of you who were hoping that I was going to hate on this guy, man, I'm probably going to spend a lot more time watching his channel, in all honesty. He seems to have a really good grip on science versus reality, on, he had a good respect of the guys that were bigger than him. He didn't try to unnecessarily critique people. He didn't try to unnecessarily sound like the smartest guy in the room. He was very respectful of the people who do this professionally and maybe are not scientifically minded. And he seems to be reinforcing what a lot of the greats knew intuitively, which is that full range of motion is not necessary. Junk sets count. cheat reps count. There's a variety of ways to stimulate muscle growth, and they all have value. And at the end of the day, nitpicking this stuff too far, you just really don't get the return on investment. All of this science that's gone into the making of these videos, and we're talking about a 5 to 10% difference in total muscle growth. So again, as I've said ad nauseum, guys, eat in a surplus, take gear, pick up heavy shit, put it down. Don't get caught up into the minutia of all of this. But if it's something that you're interested in, if it's something that you like, if you want to try to squeeze out that extra 5 to 10%, then in all honesty, as it stands right now, I cannot recommend Jeff Nippard. He's probably got the best channel I've seen to date on YouTube. So there you have it. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.